Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Premiership Podcast. We're your hosts, Jacob.
And Elijah.
And let's get crack-a-lacking into round 21, where Elijah will take us off on Friday night's game.
Yep. So, just going top to bottom, basically. Bulldogs, bit of a demolition over the Tigers at Marvel Stadium, 126 to 71. What are your takeaways?
Bulldogs, far more superior on the night. It's good to see them versus a team that's somewhat their caliber, probably lower tier to the Bulldogs. But the one thing I'd like to say to the Bulldogs is, where's this type of performance against a top tier team?
Yeah,
A dub's a dub. A dub's a dub. A dub's a dub. Bontempelli's on fire and will most likely win the Brownlow now with Dacos injured.
right.
And we'll get to Dacos later on, as I'm quite frustrated with that. But yeah, you got the usual suspects playing really well. Liberatore, Scott, Ugelhagen, Norton, Lobb playing a pretty good role at the moment. But the Tigers spilling the coffee there. They probably spilled their chance of making the finals as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So I think last week we said with this one, if you lose, you're basically out of the finals race, and we've kind of seen that now with Richmond. You did expect this one to be a bit closer, all things considered. I think I had the Dogs by a couple of kicks, and quarter time it was 57 to 13. So it wasn't happening, and it stayed like that for the rest of the night. So, I guess looking on to next year now for Richmond. Yeah. What do you think they'll have to change going to next season? Obviously, coaching is still up in the air. They're the older players as well. Some might retire, whatnot. What do you think?
Jack Rewalt is the one that's most likely to retire, as he's stated. He's not the North Melbourne game will be a good farewell game for him. Trent Cotchin, I'm not sure if he's signed on for another year, but he's another one set to go. Dusty Martin still has another season or two in him, but it's all about bringing up that youth.
Yep.
That they've prided themselves on, and you got the groundworks for a really good team circling around Bolton, Noah Bolter down back, and forward line such as Cumberland and 46 Miller for the Tigers.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So I'm not too concerned about them, but they're going to be a low to mid-tier team for a while until they are set to attack that top four again.
Well, I think they've got a young list, right? Like to a degree. Okay, so they've got some good young players. Ralph Smith, Taranto, Hopper, which they got from the Giants. A few others as well. Like they're not going to be these bottom dweller teams. In saying that, considering the rest of the caliber of the league going to next season, it could be up in the air. They might just be down there because the rest of the league is so much. They're all competing basically, like this season, right? Like you might see North Melbourne, a West Coast, Gold Coast, maybe a St Kilda, maybe, or some other clubs just like Fremantle this year. They just for whatever reason doesn't really fall the right way. They might drop down as well, but the Richmond might fall around that area, maybe. But I can still see them fighting around that 12th area too.
The one thing that I haven't really heard from the Tigers is in regards to their trade period, people leaving or people coming in. So that's the one thing I'd like to look out for with the Tigers, because they're with the Hopper and Taranto thing. Who knows what they can do during the off season?
Yeah, well, I think if you're looking for a piece or two for Richmond, Because remember Boston's, I don't remember how old he is, but he might kind of be around the same situation as Cochin and Rewalt, or close
No,
to.
he's in his prime at the moment, 26, 27.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Oh well. But either
I'll
way,
double check.
I think if you're looking for a couple of pieces to trade for, draft, whatever, you're probably looking at like a tall forward to replace a Rewalt or trade up. I know you have other players who can fill that role, at least temporarily. But I think they
He's
could be
29.
okay. So he's not a young guy. He's not in his prime either. He's kind of he's definitely on the older side, I should say. But like, yeah, you have other pieces there. Another thing is just developing more midfielders. Just Cochin and Dusty, for example. I know Dusty plays more forward nowadays, like we're just saying, but getting around that area of the ground, right? So that's probably the area right now, I would think.
I see Richmond predominantly going through the draft this season.
Yeah, I don't remember what picks they have, but I can see that if they have picks. Yeah. On the doggies, right? They had a really good win. Bontempelli, great performance once again against a team which we thought was about the same level, but clearly not. 32 touches, 9 tackles, and 3 goals, if you don't mind. He was everywhere. Brilliant stuff. Libba was awesome as always. He had 12 tackles, 31 touches. Trelaw had 32 touches as well. And just down the list, just a lot of dogs, right, all over the place. Right, so if they make finals, I think everyone thinks they will at this stage. What kind of noise do you think they can make?
Semi at most. Semi-final at most.
Okay. You don't think they can compete with, say, a Melbourne if they get like a big out, or Port Adelaide, or Brisbane?
If it's interstate, they'll lose. If it's even though they bet Port Adelaide back in 2021 to make that grand final, if they play Port Adelaide there, I don't think they're going to be winning that this time around. Whereas if it's a Melbourne Bulldogs prelim or semi, it could land into their favour, but I don't see them making noise against a Melbourne or a Collingwood or even a Brisbane if they play them at the Gabba. No one's beating the Lions at the Gabba.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, the only recent interstate game they've played is in Sydney. They lost by 2 points. So take that as you will, but yeah.
But they may surprise us like they always do in the finals because they finished bottom four, not bottom four, outside the top four, in 2021 and 2016 and made the grand final. So there's nothing saying that they can't make it.
I mean, if they play a Melbourne or a Geelong or something in those semis, and that's forced to play a Marvel, that actually plays into their favour too.
I don't see Geelong making top four, but
well, no, not at this point, no. But we will see.
We will see. On to Saturday.
Yes, Saturday. Starting off with an absolute banger of a game. Did not see this one coming at all, but the Essendon Bombers hanging on by a point to West Coast, 73-72. It was very, very good game. Not the most high scoring, but pretty average. But very good contest by both sides. I mean, Kyle Langford had 5 goals from the Dons. And yeah, you had about 4 players from the Eagles having a couple of goals each. What are your thoughts on Dons Eagles?
The one thing that's really piqued my interest about this game is the fact that people think West Coast weren't trying hard enough to win in that last minute. And to that, I say I disagree. And the other thing that piqued my interest is Kyle Langford as a possible All-Australian. What do you think of that?
So we'll start Kyle Langford. And then go back to your previous point. But Kyle Langford as an Australian is interesting. We might maybe do all Australian stuff later in the season, a couple of weeks. But it's interesting prospect because a lot of midfielders nowadays play forward, right? You have Toby Green. I guess he's more of a small forward anyway, but he can also play really well through the midfield. Dusty, Dangerfield, a lot of these other guys. I think so. Brad Johnson, he did his current All-Australian team, and half the forwards are all midfielders. So, look,
I guess the wingmen were midfielders as well.
Yeah, Rosie out in the half-forward flank, as you do. But anyway, yeah, I can maybe see it, but I also think, considering the other forwards in the game, I don't know if I would quite put him at the same level as, say, Toby Green or a
Tex Walker.
Exactly, or even Tom Hawkins or Jeremy Cameron or even Charlie Cameron. So, actually, might even take a couple of Hawks away from two. At the moment, at least. So, this was against West Coast. I don't want to take that away from it. And West Coast did play well, but yeah, it's interesting.
Did they try hard enough to win? Okay. The Eagles.
It's a young team. I'm not holding it against them if they fight it out right to the last breath and then just start to dwindle away because of their fitness, right? Young team, riddled with injuries and sickness and whatnot, right? They made it there. And as far as, if I'm a West Coast supporter, as far as I'm concerned, you made it there, that's fantastic. More than you would expect already, right?
100%.
I don't think you could really ask, you just put in more than this team who's already pushing for finals and is going to keep their season alive. Come on. I don't really see that's realistic at the moment.
The one thing I'd like to say before we move on is don't be surprised if a bottom four team defeats one of these teams that are fighting for a top 8 position, because with the top 4 team not really playing for much, the thing they can play for is ruining another team's season. And we could possibly see that in the last 3 rounds.
Definitely. There's a few games already I can see in the next week even, or this week, I guess, which are looking to be that way. Right? Like Port Giants, Saints Tigers, Hawks Dogs, that's in Tassie, right? That's just Sunday's games. Right? All those on Sunday. So, you'll definitely see at least one. You'll see these lower teams, they'll fight up against another team who's in theory better, but for whatever reason could shift another way. So,
overall, Bombers beating the Eagles.
yeah. A lot of credit to the Eagles, but Essendon won. I don't want to touch on this a whole lot. Essendon should have won. They eventually did.
They should have won by a lot more.
They should have. They were up by, 3-4 goals at halftime? So, yeah. Anyway.
Not good at all.
No. But, moving on. Adelaide getting over the Suns 89-61 at Adelaide Oval. You had a lot of the standard contributors from the Crows to get this one over the line. Mitchell Hinge, haven't talked about him at all actually this season. He had a really good game. 31 touches, 7 marks, and 14 intercepts of those 31 disposals. 14 of those possessions were intercepts. So he had a really good game, and we haven't talked about him all season. The normal ones, Crouch, Fogarty, your Laird, Dawson, so on and so forth. Suns did have a good run at it, especially in that third quarter, if I remember right. But yeah, it just was too little, too late, and the team that should have won ended up winning.
I did not watch this game whatsoever. I was expecting this one to be more of a blowout than what it was. So I just didn't really bother watching this game. I was more interested in the Hawthorn Collingwood game, which is up next,
It
which we'll
is.
be discussing very shortly. But yeah, good on the Crows keeping their season alive. Gold Coast are, I think, mathematically not making finals.
They weren't now.
Yeah.
I think in theory they can, but looking at the ladder, you wouldn't expect it. They're 2 games out of the 8. And that's not even considering percentage, by the way. And there's Richmond, Essendon, Adelaide, Swans, Cats, all between them and 8th place Giants. So if they want to make it, it's going to be very tough and very lucky. Which, once again, in theory could happen, but I don't think is realistic at this point.
It's unlikely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very happy that the Crows are still in this with a lot of players still to come back who could possibly cause some mayhem in the finals. And with them possibly maturing up a bit since they got injured, like the Rankins and Rochelle's. If they come back firing, the roof for the Crows for me is probably the prelim if they do make it to the finals. And I've called it. I've told all my mates, including yourself, I do believe that it's going to be a Port Adelaide prelim. And I am still on the belief that it will be an Port Adelaide prelim. And what a game that'll be.
That's a big call considering Port is sitting in 4th right now. But hey, all power to you.
All power.
Yeah, so I say yeah.
Oh,
pun intended. All power to you, but no, it's a possibility. But whether they can get across the line, the Swans and the Cats are above them in points, and then inside the top 8, you're looking at not Carlton, but Dogs, Saints, or Giants dropping out. For the Crows to get in, I don't know they have the percentage to get in there comfortably, but whether they can stick with these other teams in there is a different question. They have Brisbane this week and Sydney and West Coast in Perth.
So it's a tough run, a very tough run, but
it is, especially with the Brisbane game next week, because it's in Brisbane, which is you're probably not expecting to win there. So you're looking more at the Swans, who are in the same position as the Crows. They need to win to get into the 8 and as many games as humanly possible. We'll touch on them in a bit, and then West Coast, right? And you'll take them as you will. That'll be probably Luke Shuey and Shannon Hearn's last game. Can't remember if Shuey's actually injured or not, but
no, Shuey's on his hamstring again, so he's
okay
until that point, I think.
Yep. Well, at least Shannon Hearns, if he stays healthy till then. But it's a tough run for the Crows, unfortunately. But they're in it, which is enough, right? Unlike the Suns. So
let's move on to the game of the round, in my opinion.
Upset of the season, even. Upset of the season. This was a banger from the beginning. Hawks defeating the Pies, 16th taking over first, 105-73. Pies did not kick a goal in the first quarter, and it was they clawed their way back in the second quarter, but it was not enough. Hawks just came out all guns blazing, and that was that. McGuinness, honestly, low-key player of the round, right? Tagging up Nick Dacos.
Giving him the 5 disposals, if I remember correctly. 5 disposals.
Yes. Even if he did get injured, 5 touches per Dacos, mate.
Mm-hmm.
It might have ruined my fantasy chances of making the grand final in fantasy, but look, for the Hawks, great. Like, yeah, great job on him. Yeah, James Sicily down back as well. He did whatever he liked, and I'd put the pump on Collingwood here, but James Sicily just did whatever he wanted. On the weekend, he's 37 touches, 19 marks. He was a monster. 27 uncontested possessions. And if that doesn't say
not a lot of pressure down forward.
If that doesn't say what Collingwood's game was like, I don't. Well, there's a few other things that do as well, but I don't know what else would describe it as much as Sicily's impact that Collingwood let him have. Along with the 5 score involvements as well he had.
I'd just like to say that with the midfield the Pies have with Pendlebury, De Goey, Dacos, Crisp, so on and so forth, they were left to 3 clearances to 18 from the last time I read. And yeah, as you said, 27 uncontested possessions for Sicily down in the Hawks backline suggests that the forward pressure wasn't there for the Pies. And Darcy Moore was nowhere to be seen. Brandon Ryan, Kajitsky, and Mitchell Lewis did what they had to do. But then you got like the Connor McDonalds and
Weddle.
Dylan Moore, Weddle.
I like Scrimshaw's game too. He was really good.
Scrimshaw, Bruce. It was a day of learning and for the Pies. And McRae has always stated that he's in the growth business. He believes that there's always growth to be had. And with Dacos obviously being injured and out for 6 weeks, he's back when the Pies verse whoever they verse in the prelim.
If they make it there.
If they make it there. That's when Nick Dacos will be back. But yeah, I feel like, as you said before we started recording, Elijah, people are jumping the gun on the Pies, saying, "Oh, just because we hate the Pies because of the stereotypes, we're just gonna dog them and just say they're gonna fall." Which a lot of people like seeing good teams fall, and I think that's just a jealousy thing because their team's not winning or being on top. The other thing I will say is the amount of people laughing at the fact that Nick Dacos is injured and saying that, "Oh, it's good that he's injured. Oh, he frustrated me. He doesn't know how to get a hard ball." He's a genuinely good bloke, even though the stigma at Collingwood about being this jock scumbag, criminal activity, tattoos, I'm so cool guy. Nick Dacos is a genuinely good bloke, and I do think the stereotype that hangs around the Pies is incorrect at times. Yes, the Jordan De Goey pass has not helped, and the Crisp situation last year as well. But Nick Dacos is a fine young man, and he needs to and pause. No homo. He is a very good person. He puts genuine hard work into what he loves, and that's AFL football. So to all you haters out there, you guys are just jealous that he's playing AFL and you guys aren't. Get off the couch and do something with your life.
He said it, not me.
But overall, it was a really good game. Absolute banger. I got to have a go at my missus saying, haha, Pies suck, as my missus is a Pies supporter. But yeah, she was very disappointed and
that's fair enough.
Punched me in the guts. No jokes. But
in the game.
In the game, yeah.
Yeah, in the game.
It was very, very good to watch. And my dad and brother went to the game as well, and they said it was spectacular. What do you think of Brandon Ryan's game?
It's good.
That's what I'll ask.
It's good. I like his debut against the Saints. I went to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Looked fantastic. Looked even better against the Pies.
Mm,
He's here to stay. Good on him.
mm.
Uh,
Is Kajitski fighting for his spot
yes.
in the forward line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he's just been in and out of form.
Mm,
Yeah. I mean, when he's in the VFL, is clearly one of the better boys on the side. It's
mm,
just when he gets just forward in the AFL side, it's struggling to get a bit of form, or consistent form rather.
mm,
Um, yeah, because you have other players down there who demand more of the ball. You'd think, like
mm-hmm,
Mitch Lewis, Dylan Moore, Luke Bruce. They're your three main guys, I would think.
mm,
And he's kind of a fourth, which you're not really looking
mm,
for. But if the option presents itself, he's there.
mm,
Um, yeah, just a bit of form, I would think, from him.
mm. Fair enough.
Um, I do want to touch on the clearances because that was
Mm-hmm,
a big point.
mm-hmm,
So Will Day, Warple, 7 each, followed by Newcomb, Nash, and I guess Pendlebury had 6 each too. But that's one Collingwood player to 4
mm-hmm.
Hawks, right? Pendlebury to Will Day, Warple, Newcomb, and Connor Nash. They just dominated from the inside. Whenever we went back,
Mm-hmm.
Sicily had a field day, and the rest is history. That's pretty much how the game
Mm.
played out too. So,
The basketball background did not help anyone there.
I guess kind of. Uh, for the wrong reasons. Bit of cross court, double dribble, fouling. I don't know, but no, yeah. Hawks had a really good game,
Mm,
and hopefully with Collingwood's injuries and whatnot, they can get back next week. Big game. I guess big
mm,
fortnight actually, against the Cats in Brisbane.
mm.
So
100%.
yeah.
See how they go there.
Yeah, well, I
On
guess it's not
Saturday night.
gonna matter a whole lot though, because they're gonna hang on to first anyway. Let's
Mm,
say they lose the last 3 games, right? Because they've got what? Cats, Lions, Essendon. Let's say they lose all 3 of those. Uh, like they're 2.5 games clear of Melbourne, Brisbane, and Port.
they're
So
probably just going to finish second at most.
they win one or draw, and they finish first. If you want to look at it
Mm,
that way. So
mm,
yeah, if I'm calling it, I'm resting. I'm winning one and resting, or resting until the
mm,
Essendon game, basically, right?
mm.
But that's just me.
I agree.
So
I agree. And is the bye before finals still going
yes,
on?
yes, since
We'll touch on
2016.
that. We'll touch on that.
Okay. Saturday night. Cats getting over the Power at GMHBA, 97-85. Now we
Mm,
had a little cane corn saying that he at Port played well and he's not concerned at all. But I'd like to point out that that game has cost them probably a top 2 spot.
mm-hmm.
And
100%.
this continues the losing streak. And even though you had some good performances from some repeat players, Butters, Horn Francis, Rosie, whatever, this
Mm-hmm.
is still a recurring thing. They keep losing at this later end of the season where they need this good form, like Brisbane
Mm-hmm.
and Melbourne, and they've now dropped out of favourability. Right.
Mm,
In fourth, Carlton is blazing hot. They are not stopping
mm,
for anyone. They're winning the rest of the games the rest of the season. Probably. The Giants game round 24 is going to be awesome, but
mm.
Port need to be careful.
Port do need to be careful.
Yeah.
Especially since the Cats are knocking on the door of the top 8. Tom Jonas, the replacement for Aaliyah, if I remember correctly, he played forward, back, and midfield. He was playing everywhere, and he was just out of position. He should have just stayed as a backman. But Geelong, Brian Myers was my player of the game for that game, not for the round, but for that game. He is playing fantastically this season. He's got the most assists, and if he gets another 7 more assists, he'll equal the most assists in an home and away season. He was Jason Ackermanis.
Cool.
So he's up there with some of the higher echelon players. If he gets the 7 more assists. Tom Hawkins was out for this game as well, if I remember correctly. So they only had Jeremy Cameron down there with Henry and co. So
Yeah.
good on Geelong winning on home soil, because they've disappointed a couple of times, especially with the Fremantle game the week before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good win to get them back on the doorstep of the 8. Ideally, they would be in the 8 right now for that Freo game.
Mm-hmm.
But winning it in Geelong, you'll take it, right? It's you expected to win there, so you do that. And then they travel to MCG next week for Collingwood. On the men's side, Geelong probably win that one. I have at least. Obviously we'll get to predictions later on. Yeah, I'm spoiler. I have Geelong for that game, but yeah. As for the rest of their season though, like Geelong, I guess they played a really good game today. A lot of standout players. Graham Myers, couple of goals, 10 marks. Reece Stanley had an awesome game, 31 hitouts. And yeah, just the rest of the guys. I guess the only player I'd kind of circle as positive for Port Adelaide right now is ironically Horn Francis.
Not Houston, Rose.
Not really.
For that, are you talking about this game?
This game, and also just at the stage where the club's playing right now.
Fair enough.
I think I like Horn Francis' game. Right. Right now, and it's playing really well. And of course, you'd expect players like Rosie, Butters, they're getting all the touches they can get, right? But you expect them to anyway. Butters is in the race for the Brownlow. He needs to. And Rosie's right there with him. So, as far as I'm concerned, I guess everyone else kind of needs to step it up. Because they've got a tough finish of the season too. And only 10 points on the ladder between them and Carlton. Carlton win all theirs. Port lose all theirs. Blues make top 4. So, yeah.
Yeah. On to the other Saturday night game.
Yeah, a bit of an intriguing one. Giants called back, but it just wasn't enough in the end. But Giants lost to Sydney, 85-96, 11 points. It was a high intensity game. Errol Gould was probably the best player out there, in my opinion.
Probably of the year as well.
Well, not the year. Oh, the goal.
The banana.
Yes. I was looking about the goal, but yes, that is up there too. Just for the game though, holistically, I think is the best player out there. Of course, you had other good players, on Sydney. You had, Callum Mills as your normal. Parker had a good game. And then the Giants side, they still had good players too. You had Tom Green had 10 tackles and 38 touches, which is good. Kieran Briggs has an alright game in the ruck. Bedford, Whitfield, as per normal, but yeah, it's a tough loss for the Giants considering the position they're in. I would have hoped they would have won this game just to make the game at the end of the season a bit more spicy, but the Swans hang on, and they are a draw out of the top 8 right now.
It's very interesting to see the Swans peg their way back to where they are now. They're pretty much sitting in the same position as Geelong, same points, everything. To see them where they are now compared to where they were, let's say, 5 rounds ago, it just proves that anything is possible this year. Anything is currently possible. And if you're in form when finals comes around, then I wouldn't be wanting to verse any team that is in form going into finals because they've obviously got the momentum. And if Sydney have the momentum, if Geelong have the momentum, there's nothing stopping them from doing what they did last year because they know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot more it's a difficult, it's a much more difficult road to go down, but it is possible for them to do so because they've got the finals experience.
Yeah.
Mm.
Definitely. I guess. I mean, you got it on the head anyway. But that's also why I find Melbourne and Brisbane right now really intriguing. So they end up playing in the qualifying final. Whoever hosts that game's winning it. They're both in really good form. They're healthy-ish. That'll be a contest if they play for the ages. And yeah, same with Carlton too, right? But yeah, they're heading good form. I guess both these clubs are. And yeah, we'll see where that takes them. They do both have tough schedules though. We'll go over the Swans first. Suns in Sydney, Crows in Adelaide, and then hosting Melbourne to end off the season. That last game is going to be a really close game, I suspect, against the D's. But Crows and the Suns, they're winnable, you'd think?
I don't think anyone's betting Adelaide in Adelaide.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can see them betting. I can honestly say them only betting Melbourne and the Suns.
That's fair enough. Yep. And I guess onto the Giants. Port Adelaide in Adelaide this coming week. Then hosting the Bombers, and then last game of the season, Marvel Stadium against the Blues.
I can only see them betting the Blues and the who was the other team? The Essendon.
Right.
I don't see them betting Port Adelaide.
Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll have an interesting discussion come predictions time then. But yeah. So I guess both these teams a bit of a tough end of the season. Giants probably more so. Just because of the strength of those teams. You know, you have Carlton, really, really good form. Port's in top 4. And then you have Essendon trying to fight their way in as well. So, yeah, a lot of these games are just going to end up being who's in form right now. And judging by the teams who are on the edge or just in the top 8, there's only a few which are actually in really good form. And they're probably going to make it. So
100%.
Yeah.
Gonna make it or break it.
Exactly.
On to the Sunday games, or do you have anything else to say?
No, that's it from me. On to Sunday. Okay, starting off the Sunday. North Melbourne falling short of Melbourne. 71 to 103 in Hobart. Now, North Melbourne had a really, really good first quarter and a half, and then Melbourne kind of just took over. Kind of work out. Pickett, great game. We all saw it. Neil Bullen also had 3, and Kyle Chandler from the D's. Larky, who knows what he's up to. He kicked another goal, 2 behinds.
Eddie Ford.
Petty, we'll get to him in a second, injured. We'll see how that plays out for Melbourne. But overall, I guess, Melbourne expected to win. They win. It's kind of ordeal, which didn't happen last week. On to thoughts on this one.
Eddie Ford for North Melbourne, kicking 4 goals? 3 goals?
Who?
Ford.
Eddie Ford. 3 goals.
He was a standout for me, especially in that first quarter, watching the highlights. But other than that, they didn't have anything. They've got a couple of players retiring at the end of the year as well. So they're just going to be this young team growing together Alistair Clarkson back at the helm as well is very good to see him back in good spirit and health. But nah, that was the only sort of player who stood out to me as a threat. Other than that, Cozzy Picker was running amok. Harry Petty injured. The implications that'll have on the forward line is massive. Because he's out for the season now. What they do with their forward line, we'll have to say.
Well, Fritsch
their
will
forward
come
line-
back end of this home and away season, right? He's back for finals, or is he gone for finals?
I'm pretty sure it's back for finals.
Okay, good.
If not, like round 24. But Melbourne's always struggled with their forward line. And that's probably going to be the only question mark I have on Melbourne going forward. Their defence and midfield is stacked. Clayton Oliver's set to be back this week, I think. So that boosts their morale heaps.
Yeah.
Whether or not they introduce a brand spanking new forward instead of playing the Shackies, Ben Brown, or McDonald.
Yeah.
We'll have to say.
I mean, even though paying Brown and I guess Grundy, I've heard talks of him as well, paying them big bucks, it's probably not a good idea at all to add them back into the side. Because I don't think they even have them in consideration for their finals team.
Yeah, I agree.
So, unless Max Gawn comes down with an injury, Grundy's probably not playing in this side the rest of the season. And I can't see Ben Brown and whoever else coming into the forward line either, unfortunately.
100%.
Unless like their entire AFL side gets injured and they have to play VFLs like West Coast. So
Joel Smith.
Yeah.
Joel Smith could be that one player to stand up because he's got a fantastic open and good grab on him.
Could.
Which I saw about.
Well, I guess like Ben Royan, he's kind of back in now. He had a couple goals, a couple behinds.
Petrarca.
Yeah, I mean he's playing through the midfield, of course. And then you know Chandler's always been down there too. But
reliable.
Yeah, they should be okay.
Interesting to see what happens.
They should be okay. Melbourne at least. Rough season for North, but you're working for the future. You're not working for right now. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
On to the blockbuster.
More like I can't say that word, but absolute doozy of a game in my opinion. Blues fans acting like they won the grand final. Well, they got over the Saints at Marvel Stadium at least. 54-73, 19 points. This is against St Kilda. You know how we feel about St Kilda, but Saints had this one at 3/4 time. They're up by a kick and bit. Leading by 4 goals at half time. I don't think this Carlton, sure, Carlton's winning games and they're beating good sides. When they play sides like St Kilda, I don't know. They just aren't all there. And they're not playing to the best of their ability, I don't think.
Man, imagine if West Coast came up against Carlton in the final right now.
Well, okay. Well, we could have talked about West Coast before, but West Coast improved heaps since their game against Carlton.
100%.
I know that even though Voss has the game plans to basically lock West Coast away and throw away the key and never see them again for another decade, but they've improved heaps. It'd be a closer game than this, probably.
Possibly.
Basically, just came through the third quarter. Carlton just went on a massive goal streak, and the Saints never got a kick in to stop it. Basically,
it was an absolute. Even though they played at prime time, blockbuster game was an absolute doozy.
Didn't feel like a blockbuster.
It didn't. I was expecting the Saints to win, and they were winning, but they lost. Yeah, that's literally all I can say about this game. They were winning, but they lost.
I mean, I was expecting Carlton to win this convincingly, right? Considering how we feel about St Kilda. You'll see in the power rankings in a second. And if you don't know already, we're not fans. not of the club. Like, we like the club, but the way they're playing this year, recently at least, not good at all.
Not good at all.
They're not playing like a final side, even though they are right there. And
And to be honest, they may stay there as well.
maybe I looked at their draw as well. They win another game, they're probably in it.
Oh, bugger.
So we can cover that now. St Kilda, Richmond this week. We'll get those predictions, but that'll be a tough game. Geelong and Marvel, and then going to Brisbane.
I can only see them beating Richmond.
Yeah,
And then,
but Geelong in at Marvel. That I guess there's potential for an upset there. You can't see it against the Lions,
and it's for a top 8 position as well for Geelong and St Kilda. So
yes.
that makes it more interesting.
It does. Like, they win those 2 games, for whatever reason they're in finals.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. And I guess I think everyone knows Carlton's whole mojo now. We didn't need to go over them, but they're red hot at the moment. This game I don't feel like was a true representation of how they've been playing recently, and hopefully it's not an indicator for their sake of how they'll play upcoming.
100%. Hopefully not.
Yeah. But on to the actual blockbuster of the day for Sunday. Brisbane, right at the last minute of it, getting over the line against Fremantle.
Yes.
In Perth, 74-77. I had Fremantle. I was devastated.
They threw everything at him.
Yeah, and they nearly had him too. The third quarter, they were up by, I can check, 17 points in the third quarter. In a kind of medium scoring game against probably a top 3 side in the comp. That's good. But yeah, it just wasn't enough, really.
I've honestly got nothing to say about this game. I didn't watch it.
Really? Okay.
I was more interested in the FIFA World Cup, and I was at work.
That's fair. I don't really care about soccer, so I'll leave that one up to you guys.
Fremantle are mathematically not able to make finals anymore.
Yeah.
So their season is over.
Yeah.
But good on them for giving it a fair dinkum crack. A bit of a disappointing year for them, but but that doesn't mean they can't cause an upset in the future. Who do they verse in their last 3 games?
They play West Coast this week. Sorry, the Derby. Then they're hosting Power, and then they come to the MCG to play Hawthorn.
See, they could beat the Power hosting them at home.
If you think about it, they can beat all 3 of them. Right?
So they could definitely disappoint Port Adelaide and ruin their top 4 position. So that's why I said it's the year of unpredictability.
Yeah, I mean, Port Adelaide, they host the Giants, then go to Perth to play Fremantle, and then host Richmond.
So anything could happen there.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
It'll come down to the last game of the season. It could.
100%.
Not saying it will, but it could.
It'll come down to 0.1%.
No, I think Carlton's up by a good lead on Power in terms of percentage. So it won't if it comes that close, but yeah. But I guess for this game, I guess Brisbane, tough travel. They get the win though, which is surprising considering the circumstances in the game. But yeah.
They pretty much retain their top 4 position, but it will be interesting to see if they finish in the top 2.
Yeah, for now, because they'll travel back to Brisbane for this week. But before we get into that game, we'll go over the power ranking changes for this week.
Power rankings. Woo woo. I
Okay,
think I'll start things off.
go for it.
Um, Collingwood remaining on top. I feel like Elijah and I had a discussion, and we both feel people are jumping the gun. Whether or not you believe that Melbourne is on top, we hold no bias against that. Brisbane third. They're pushing as well. Top three teams are in the top three for a reason. Carlton pushing up to fourth position over the Power, solely due to the fact that they're more in form than the Power. Power have lost their past 4 games and they're dropping off a lot. The Western Bulldogs, just below the Power, they played fantastically against Richmond, and whether or not they can keep up that sort of form, we'll have to wait and see. Geelong, obviously being the Power, a formidable foe at GMHBA. They destroyed them in every asset of the game. GWS in 8th, their win streak comes to an end, but they can definitely cause an upset at Adelaide Oval. They can do anything there. And Adelaide just sitting 9th again. We believe that Adelaide can possibly sneak in, and I still firmly believe that they will first put Adelaide in a preliminary final.
Fair enough.
Mm.
I'll take care of the rest. Suns sitting in 10th. Going well. I guess in terms of their actual place on the ladder, it's not really indicative of how they're playing, but is what it is. Swans sitting in 11th, just below that. I think they played the Suns today. Suns probably just have the edge. It's a bit of a surprise. Maybe we're jumping the gun, but we're Hawks fans who kind of don't care. But Hawthorn in 12th. They played awesome against Collingwood, and I mean, they've been playing well all season, right? They played the same way against, St Kilda the week before. They beat them. They play Richmond. They probably beat them. And all the other teams below them as well. I guess their teams above them, a bit more question marks, a bit closer. Some maybe blowouts. I can see Sydney blowing Hawthorn out. But as it stands, I think Hawthorn's probably up there, about 12th, 13th. Richmond in 13th, as we said before. Fremantle, Essendon, now near the bottom 4 there. Followed by West Coast. Close game against Essendon, but they're right there. And then St Kilda, they're in 6th, 7th place right now, but they're in 17th here. We don't know what they're doing.
And North Melbourne.
Yeah. So North Melbourne, they're in last, mainly because of that West Coast performance. But yeah,
it's funny to see that West Coast have been sitting 18th for the whole season and have all of a sudden jumped to 16th. Where does that come from?
Don't know. I couldn't tell you. Yeah.
Fair enough. On to the predictions.
Yeah. Preds.
Prejudice.
Okay. Friday night. Giga banger. Collingwood play Friday nights rest of the season. So strap in Pies fans. But MCG, Collingwood, Geelong.
I've got the Pies.
Alright, the Cats.
The Pies undermanned, but I feel like McRae's growth mindset will hit its point. I feel like they're going to make a debut. They'll debut someone this week as well to replace Nick Dacos in side bottom. Or they may bring in an old foe in like a Josh. Remember Josh Carmichael from last year? They could bring in a Bianco, a Reef McGuinness. I feel like their ruthlessness will return this week.
Okay. I have the Cats. I think they're traveling okay. I wouldn't say it's the best, but they're okay. I think Colin's a little worse for wear. He plays out of form. A lot of bad injuries.
Mm.
Interesting to see how they bounce back, but I only have the Cats by a kick. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, it'll be a good game, though.
Something similar to the qualifying final of last year.
Similar, yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Saturday, North Melbourne, Marvel Stadium hosting Essendon.
Essendon.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Moving right along. Sydney hosting the Suns.
Sydney.
Yep. Sydney 2. Didn't talk about that one too much. Brisbane hosting Adelaide.
I've got the Crows.
All right. I have the Lions. Could you explain the Crows to us?
It's my upset of the round.
Okay.
And I feel like the Gabba, Brisbane and the Gabba will fall to the knees of Tex Walker.
That's an interesting way of putting it, but okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane in Brisbane. I can't go past it. Sorry, but
Fair enough.
it's a fortress. No one can break it. Is what it is. Steaming on Saturday night, Carlton, MCG, and Melbourne.
Carlton.
Yeah, I have Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
Melbourne are in really good form. I do want to say. I think Carlton at the moment, they're hitting everything right. I can't really see. I think it'll be a low scoring game. I do want to
think it's
point
going
out.
to be low scoring.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Just because I guess Kerno is the kind of the only forward on the field who has the ability to have massive impact. And I think that's the Carlton backs, right? You got Newman, Doherty,
You'll be on
Wiedering. Yeah. Those three and more, like, yeah, they're just too much. I think I can't see the D's getting a whole lot of value from their forward line. It'll mainly come through the midfield, which Carlton match up comparatively well. If Oliver comes in, that's a worry if you're a Carlton supporter.
But it's his first game back in a while, so
For better or for worse, I'd probably say for worse if you're a Carlton supporter. Right,
fair enough.
He's fresh, but interesting to see how that one go.
Will we see another Cozzy Pickett moment?
Maybe because it'll have to basically come from those crumbs. Because like a Wiedering, Newman, Doherty, as I've said before, they're all just gonna slingshot it back out, right? As they've done many times in the past couple months. So, yeah,
fair enough.
Okay. Keep going Saturday night, the Derby, Eagles and Dockers.
I put the Eagles.
Really? I just realized now. Yeah, that's actually a good tip. Explain the Eagles, and I'll go over the Dockers.
With Luke Shuey and Shannon Hearn making their departure, retiring at the end of the season, and due to form against the Bombers, travelling to Marvel Stadium, I feel like they're hitting some pretty good notes on the piano. And I feel like Oscar Allen's gonna tear their defense to shreds. He's gonna probably kick 4 or 5 goals. And their defense, Barras, is he still in or is he out of the season?
He's in.
I can't remember.
No.
Yeah, I feel like they're just hitting better notes than what Fremantle are.
Fair enough. I think Fremantle. I guess I feel like they are still the better team in Perth. I guess WA. And I just trust them a bit more. West Coast, I guess recently at least, they've been the worst team in the comp until now. And they're not a whole lot has actually changed. It's mainly just been the mindset, basically. But Fremantle coming off a good win against Geelong and a very, very good game against Brisbane. If we bring the same level of intensity and mentality mindset, they win this game, I think, convincingly.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, but I think if they, for example, lose that Brisbane game by a good margin, or they lose to Geelong and Geelong, I don't think they have enough momentum to beat the Eagles. I would agree. But as of right
Fair
now,
enough.
I have Fremantle because of that.
That's fair enough.
Okay. Sunday, Tasmania, Hawthorn hosting the Bulldogs. Got the Hawks.
I've honestly got the Hawks.
Yeah, we've got both of the Hawks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about it or just move on?
I'm not sure how the Dogs travel at UTAS, but I feel like
I think they beat us
the
last game of the season. Last year, they won by a kick or 2 or 3.
I feel like we've just got better knowledge of that ground compared to the Dogs.
Yeah. I also just like the form that we're in compared to the Bulldogs. I think they're just setting us up to win, assuming that we don't get overconfident. If we get overconfident,
confidence over ego. Confidence over ego.
Yes, we don't get overconfident because then you get too comfortable. Yeah. Prime time. Saints hosting the Tigers at Marvel Stadium. I have the Saints.
I had the Saints in mind as well. I've got the Saints.
Yeah. Originally, I did have Richmond, but I flipped over to the Saints just because I don't know what they're gonna bring, and Richmond's form's too inconsistent for me to recommend them beating St Kilda when both teams are up there in the finals race and both want to win desperately. Just stay.
It completely contradicts our power rankings, but
yeah,
we do think that St Kilda can win this game.
Look, MCG, Richmond win by 50, 60 points.
100%.
I'm like, it's not close. Marvel Stadium, though, St Kilda play it very, very well. I mean, they nearly beat Carlton there. They beat Hawthorn there. It's all up to Richmond, I think.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. And last game, Port Adelaide hosting the Giants.
I've got another upset. I've got the Giants.
I have the Giants too. I thought you would have gone Port because of the discussion we had earlier. But I guess we've got the Giants, both of us. I guess, yeah, Giants. They're in good form. Right? Granted, they came off a loss to Sydney at home, but a lot of them, like, they're learning off those. Right? And yeah, they come off good form other than that as well. Them and Carlton are the two most informed sides in the competition. I guess statistically. So realistically, I think with the way Port Adelaide's going as well, even though it's in Adelaide and Port Adelaide are really good there, the Giants, I think, sneak over the line.
It'll come down to the last 5 minutes of the game if it does come to that, and it's going to be the only way the Giants win the game. Other than that, it'll be a blowout if Port Adelaide win.
What's the weather going to be like?
It's definitely going to be a Sunday weather.
That does not help. Adelaide. Sunday. Not much rain. Okay. I was gonna say because it was raining, then I think they play the rain very differently. I think it'd be interesting to see how it's played. But yeah, a bit more boring one at least. Top of 16. So, oh well. Cool. Anything else about that one?
Nope.
Oh, cool. All right. Let's quickly breeze through the rest of our things then.
Player of the round.
Yeah. Who do you have?
You start off.
Me? Okay. I have Vin McGuinness from Hawthorn. I talked about him earlier. I know Sicily's a really, really good pick. I don't want to dismiss that. He should be All-Australian this year. I'm saying this about 3 years now, and he's still not there yet. Apparently, somehow, but Finn McGuinness this week. Just the tag on Dacos. Like, other teams have done it, but they haven't been able to shut him down to what he dished up. Yeah. Like, people will only realize now how good of a tagger Finn McGuinness is. Like, he's been doing it all season, last couple of seasons actually, and finally people realize, like, hey, this kid's the real deal. Yeah, not too common nowadays either, and he's fantastic game. He just stuck on him the whole time, no matter what, and I love to see it.
I've got some Hawks bias. I've got James Sicily as my player of the round. The Intercept King, Australian, as Elijah said. He should be an Australian. That's what I should say. Yeah, he's on fire with those 37 disposals, marks, doing as he pleases, setting up the structure going forward, and ultimately bringing the downfall of the Pies on Saturday.
Yeah.
On to what made us laugh.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything for this week.
I do.
Go for it.
Kelly Underwood at it again, calling GWS the orange team. When is this lady going to get fired? At this point, she's doing it for the clout. You can't make the same mistake twice, especially in 2 weeks. Like, you can't do that. How's that possible?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not buying it. But she's doing a job. I guess if you want to look at it this way, the publicity is just making it better for her.
That is true. So if she continues to say ridiculous things, I guess it increases her popularity for better or worse. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
But the orange team, it's gone from the Gold Coast Lions to the orange team once again. We've returned to old habits.
I mean, look, I can understand the slip of the tongue because, like, slip of the tongue, but like mixing up words, whatever else, like, I get that. That's cool, and I think unfairly people still make fun of that. But I think to an extent, I almost find it like in her favor, comical. What's kind of been going on? I guess where people have been taking it. Like, if you go by the idea that any publicity is good publicity, then she is winning, like easily. So,
is she betting BT?
Yeah, I'd like to see. I'd like to see roaming Underwood in the rooms.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So nothing made you laugh this week?
Not really.
What made you angry?
Rio losing, I guess, because that means it's one extra tip between me and whoever's first in the tipping comp. But that's it. It's
cry me a river.
I am.
Cry me a river.
I am. But look, we'll be more into the next few weeks because it's the thick end of the season now, and yeah, a lot of good games coming up too.
100%. I'd like to reiterate my point on Nick Dacos. People's hatred for him. Please just let the kid be a kid. He's our age. He's 20 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old. He's a young man trying to find his way in the world, and like the Bailey Smiths and Jack Ginivans of the world, we see what publicity does to you. It sort of ruins your mentality, and I don't think it'll ruin his mentality, but the amount of hatred towards a young man who's done practically nothing wrong but be a fantastic player. And even though I said the Bont is more likely to win the Brownlow with 3 rounds to go and Dacos being injured, that's not to say that Dacos can't win the Brownlow anymore. If he wins the Brownlow, it will shut everyone up because he is by far the best player of this season, even though he misses the last 3 games of the season.
I guess I'm counting the last one too. He's missed 4. He'll miss 4. I'm counting the Hawks.
4.
I'm counting the Hawks game because he did nothing. Like
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Any final messages on your behalf?
Not necessarily on my end. I guess, yeah.
I've got nothing to say either.
Yeah, stay safe.
Another week. Eat your vegetables,
Yeah.
kids. Eat your vegetables. Eat your protein. Drink lots of water, and make sure you wear your hat during the summer because no hat, no play, no fun
Well,
today.
it's August. It's gonna be a while till summer still.
It's quite warm today.
Okay, what's everything that's been warm recently? It's top of 16 degrees. It's not warm.
It's warmer than usual.
It's not. I'm still wearing like a shirt, like a t-shirt, a shirt, and then a jacket. It's not cold. It's not warm.
Man, Elijah, you should start your own channel showing off your pieces of clothing.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. This is the closest you're gonna get.
Boo!
Nah, not even the Instagram. It's just the closest you're getting.
Petition to start a YouTube channel. Elijah's try on haul.
No, it's not happening.
God damn it!
People have been saying it's been warm recently. I'm not buying into it. There's like
It's because I'm walking around Melbourne. It's getting everyone really hot.
No. I dare say the opposite. Sorry, mate.
Oh, whoa. Whoa,
speaking of...
Way to raise my self-esteem. Wow.
Like, subscribe. We'll see you guys later. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Take it easy, fellas. Ciao, ciao.